What up, film family? In today's video we shoot panoramas with the Olympus Mju panorama featuring the Kodak Ektar 100 film. In the first two frames, I show how the 35mm film comes back scanned. So I show you the full 35mm frame, and then I show you the crop version after. And then the rest of the photos following are how I ended up having to crop the image to get the panorama.
Yeah. Say, I remember back then, cruising in the bike lane, sun behind the clouds, looking like it might rain. Wanted to run away, but I couldn't find the right train. Wore glasses, but reality made my sight change. Are you alright, man? Nope, not really. Need for attention, the reason we act silly. Got a milli on my mind, homie Billy on the grind.
So how this is done is the panorama feature on this, you slide here and you get that P mode there, and that's how you know you activated the panorama mode. A lot of film photographers call this non-true panorama, which is, in a sense, I agree. So all you get is a shield on bottom and a shield on top. Both cover about 1/4 of the frame, which gives you that panorama look. It ends up putting a shade on top and shade on bottom. That's how you end up getting that panorama look. And as silly as I thought it was going to be and not that good quality, it actually surprised me and came out with some pretty good photos that I'm happy with.
That shit cray. See. Look at me now, smashing in the left lane. 80 on the dash to the day I ride jet plane. Louis Vuitton for my girl, my homies and mom. Ain't nothing wrong, we never floss like that. Boss like that, picture me white, black, suited up, yeah, just like that.
Hey film family, I hope you're enjoying this video. If you haven't already, this would be a good time to subscribe to the channel. Olympus ended up calling this the panorama and then calling this a dual feature, meaning that you have the panorama mode and then you also have the option to turn it off, and then you can shoot a full 35mm frame. And which was nice to have to be able to go back to when I was scanning or trying to frame a shot and it didn't work for the panorama look. A couple times I didn't even want a panorama, I just wanted to capture the moment. It was definitely nice to have multiple options to shoot with when going out there. I am also very curious as to see why manufacturers did this. Like, were you able to print, I think it ends up being a ratio of like 2.5 to 1 at photo labs, or why would they do this? Would they really like create this panorama and then print it 4x6 or 5x7? I'm curious as to why camera manufacturers would have done this or added these features to this. I know that this is one of the cameras that done it, but there are a couple other cameras that offer that feature. I just think it's super cool that they came up with that concept and did it, and hopefully there's some panorama prints out there that were easy to make, like 4x6.
After my daddy, and when I think about it, yo, I'm just really glad he didn't wear a condom when him and mom did a thing. They brought me to this world, and to this world I'm bringing change. Flame in my heart, I play the game very smart. I do my part, I kept it real from the start. Really though, there ain't too much that I ask for. Only desire a couple stamps on my passport. A couple stamps on my passport. Yeah.
So again, to reiterate what I said earlier, I definitely, when I saw the results, was very pleased with the shots, but when I first started doing this, I didn't expect very much of it. I definitely thought that I was going to find all of the images interesting, but what I didn't expect is how well it worked with my style of shooting. I believe that it definitely helped with this camera having these two lines in the viewfinder that give you that framing, obviously, for your panorama shot, which ended up helping me. But I think that my style is already kind of cinematic, where I like to add a lot of layers and use a lot of leading line. With the help of the panorama, I'm able to kind of crop what I don't need on top and what I don't need on bottom, and making these cinematic shots. I do want to give credit where credit is due. I really feel like my choice of film, which is Kodak Ektar, ends up helping with the panoramic images and making it feel more cinematic. Maybe if I would have chose like Fujifilm or something else, I wouldn't have been as pleased with these images.
Everything's fair, so I love these haters, and to go to war I'm never scared. Never can live my life in fear. Living fast, I live my life in fifth gear. I'm not a gangster, but it's West Side homes. I did a lot of thinking on the bus ride home. I have become a victim of the system that I hate. It's a shame, cause I assist them when I pay. Couple hundred for some J's, couple thousand for a chain. In the words of Kanye, that shit cray. See, yeah.
The cinematic view and feel to these photos is very fascinating to me. It locks you into what's going on. It's a little unfortunate because on Instagram, people prefer that portrait style, which is kind of upward, versus that landscape. So if I end up sharing, which I probably will, on Instagram, it's going to look a lot smaller. It may be not as cool, but I will definitely still share it on Facebook and Instagram. In the panoramic photos that I took, everything in the scene feels intentional, with purpose and importance to the scene, like it would be a different feel if that layer wasn't in the scene, which I really like about panoramic shots. I have a graphic design background, so I love layers and having a bunch of stuff in a frame that just makes sense and ends up feeling more like art or a movie than an actual photo.
Yes. Hey.
Like a lot of film photographers, they don't consider this to be true panoramic image, not like the Hasselblad X-Pan, which ends up being like, I believe, two 35mm frames, so normal, and then two ends up making that large image. This ends up just cropping a normal size 35mm frame with the shades, so you lose quality and it's not as respected as the X-Pan. But one thing that is a big bonus, which I spoke about earlier, is being able to flip from panoramic to normal modes. In a Hasselblad X-Pan, you get these amazing images, but you have panoramic the whole time, which is just something to think about. And this could definitely be a stepping stone to a Hasselblad. So like if you want to make sure that maybe you like creating panoramic photos, that you could definitely take this first step of getting a point and shoot like this, where things are really simple. Just focus on composing your panoramic images and then seeing if it's really your style before you make that $1,000 or $2,000 step to that Hasselblad X-Pan. So I definitely recommend it as a stepping stone. Even if you just want to have fun, this is definitely a great feature to try out. The nice thing and the whole point is that you're not stuck with 36 panoramic shots, or like the Hasselblad, 12 or 16, however many it gives you. And another point, which I ended up doing for some of the shots, is you don't really have to use the P feature. You can still use the frame lines in the viewfinder of the panoramic mode, but you can still just take a full frame and then crop it in post later. It could work better as a full frame, or it can work better as a panoramic, but it's nice to have a really good idea of what's going to be in your frame if you end up wanting to crop it panoramically. I definitely like the majority, if not all, the panoramic photos that I was able to capture, but my top photos, I'm going to go over 3 of them. The first one here is of the cyclist in Sausalito, and then you get the cinematic view. This ends up working really well. I end up doing this for a lot of my photos where I wait for a subject to get into my frame, so I don't feel as creepy just going up and just snapping photos. I waited for a cyclist to come by and end up passing me. I snapped this photo as he touched the bike lane decals on the street. It ended up working really well. Even the person on the right adds a layer, the people in the middle, two people walking in the middle, add a layer, the van, and then you can get that restaurant that adds to the water and gives you that very Sausalito feel that everyone knows and is used to if you visited. And then on the top left corner, you have that San Francisco skyline. This image works out really well. My second top photo is of this couple and then the boat scene that I waited for that boat and then I snapped it when it was kind of like in the middle with the couple. So it ends up being three main subjects. Stairs, leading lines lead you to the middle of the image. That bench is curved, so it gives you that leading line. And the shadow from the bench and the shadow from the stair handlebars or whatever, help guide you to the middle of the image, which is what I wanted everyone to see, is that boat, the water, and that Sausalito feel with that couple. Also, the fact that the couple is focused on the boat as well, it gives the boat more importance, which kind of helps the image be a stronger image, in my opinion. So the last two images I'll talk about are the gas station images. The first one is of my car and I'm pumping gas and you get the exit only sign, you get the no smoking, and then I think what gives this more of a cinematic and action feel is the person in the back is about to close their door. It gives you more of that action and life feeling, having that person in the image to create that full cinematic feel. Yeah, but ultimately when I took the shot, I wanted Kodak to be sticking out of the window. But as I went to take this photo, he went back into the car and stopped staring at me through the window. So it came out this way. I still think it's an interesting image, which explains my next image I'm going to talk about, which is of Kodak's head sticking out the window, which ends up working really well. He has like an annoyed look in his face because he's probably annoyed of just being in the car and he wants to get out. That was originally what I was trying to get with the whole gas scene. I added this photo because it ends up being the closest thing that I have to a portrait using this panoramic mode. And it ends up still working out really well. What helps it is adding the layer of the reflection of the gas station post, the no smoking thing in reverse. You get to see my gas door is open, so it tells a bigger story that Kodak is at the gas station board. It ends up making it a stronger image. And again, I want to reiterate that I liked a lot of these images. It was actually quite difficult to choose which images to choose and talk about. I chose these because I had the most to talk about these specific photos. But in the comments below, please let me know what your favorite panoramic shot that I got is. I'm sure from the tone of my voice and how I seem in this video, I was actually very pleased and excited with the images and the results I got. And if you found this video beneficial in any way, please hit that like button for me. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't for many, many more videos like this, film related videos like this. And as always, guys, happy shooting.